بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا اللهم زدنا علما إنك أنت عليم الحكيم اللهم اجعل هذه المحاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا يا رب العالمين أما بعد. This is our fifth class in the book Kitab Salat. Kitab Salat from Zaad Al-Mustaq'ni li Musa Al-Hajjawi, Imam Musa Al-Hajjawi, rahimahullah ta'ala. And we covered two shurut. The first shurut was what? Who remembers? The first condition of the salat was what? The first condition was the time. The time. And we spoke about that at great length last week. The second condition was tahara, purification. We spoke about that in great detail. Today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to discuss satrul awrah. Satrul awrah. Yani covering the body parts that are obligatory for a person to cover when they are praying. And so the Shaykh rahimahullah, and there's going to be some issues here that we're going to pass because it's not pertinent to our society and things that we deal with. However, for the most part, we're going to cover all of it, inshallah ta'ala. So the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, he starts off by saying, وَمِنْهَا سَتْرُ الْعَوْرَةِ. So the Shaykh rahimahullah, he starts off by saying, from the salat, or from the conditions of the prayer, is covering one's awrah. Covering one's awrah. طيب. قال ابن عبد البر. Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah ta'ala, he's from the ulama of Malikiyah. He's from the ulama that follow the fiqh of Imam Malik, rahimahullah ta'ala. He said, أجمعوا على فساد صلاة من ترك ثوبه وهو قادر على الاستتار به وصلى عريانا. Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah, he said that the scholars, there's a consensus of the ulama that one who prays that their salat is not valid if they have garments and they're able to put garments on to cover themselves properly, but they choose not to do so. Rather, they pray with no clothes on and they have the ability to pray with clothes on. He says in this case, this person's salat is invalid. طيب. So the Shaykh rahimahullah, Imam Al-Hajjawi, he says, فَيَجِبُ بِمَا لَا يَصِفُ بَشَرَتَهَا. So now he's describing, rahimahullah, what is obligatory for a person with regards to their covering when they pray. So he says, فَيَجِبُ بِمَا لَا يَصِفُ بَشَرَتَهَا. It is wajib to cover and use the things to cover you, that which does not describe or yasif al-bashara. That which does not describe the skin color. Something that is shaffaf. Yani was understood by that, by the ulama of al-Islam, is that a person's garments must cover their body. It cannot be see-through. So there's an argument that if a person has tight clothes on, does this also constitute a person not being covered properly, thus their salat being invalid? Because remember, without fulfilling the conditions of the salat, then a person's salat is invalid. A person's salat is invalid. So therefore, here it says, لا يصف بشرتها. The ulama, خصوصا السلف, the earlier generations of the scholars, when they speak about this issue here, they're talking about clothing that is see-through. Something that is shaffaf, yani something that you can see a person's skin color through the clothing. Whether they're white skin, brown skin, dark skin, whatever. If you can see their skin color through their clothing, herein lies the prohibition. The next question is, well, what if a person has tight pants on? A man prays with tight pants on. We're going to talk about that later, inshallah. But as it relates to this here, does this also invalidate a person's salah? If one were to look through the kalam or the speech of many of the immat salaf, many of the scholars of the past, and they say that it is hated for a person to pray with tight clothes on, even if it yasif basharatahu. Imam al-Bahuti rahimahullah, he said that a person, if they have tight clothes on, even if you could see like their limbs through their clothing, it doesn't invalidate their salat. Rather, it's hated for that person to pray that way. So the proper way to pray in Islam is not to wear tight clothing. And it is hated by many of the scholars of Al-Islam mentioned. And some of them say rather they should pray their salat all over again. Imam An-Nawawi mentions that in his Majmu'ah. He says that the person should pray all over again. He said whoever holds that position, rather that's incorrect. The correct position is that that person's salat is not invalid. However, it is hated for a person to pray in tight garments. We'll get into more detail about that in a minute. With regards to that, another issue is a person praying and some of their body parts becoming exposed. And we're going to speak about that in a later section, insha'Allah ta'ala. Any questions about that thus far? Mumtaz. The next issue here, what is awrah al-rajul? What is incumbent for a man to cover when he is praying? What is incumbent for a man to cover when he is praying? So, what is incumbent for a man to cover when he is praying? It also talks about slaves and to the end of it, but we don't live in a time period where that's relevant, so we're going to pass over that section. But he says, وَأَوْرَةُ الرَّجُلِ مِنَ السُّرَّةِ إِلَى رُكْبَةِ مِنَ السُّرَّةِ إِلَى رُكْبَةِ. As-surrah. How many people heard of the word surrah? The awrah for a man is min as-surrah ila rukbah, yani from the navel to the knees. From the navel to the knees is considered awrah for a man. Awrah, it means that which is obligatory for a man to cover. That which is obligatory for a man to cover. Some of the ulama differ. Is the awrah here, is the knee included in the awrah or not? Some of them differ. Rather, some say it's above the knee. Some say it stops at the knee to the end of it. And then he mentions, وَكُلُّ حُرَّةٍ عَوْرَةٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهَا. With regards to a woman, what is obligatory or what is necessary for a woman to cover, especially with regards to the salah? So the Shaykh rahimahullah, he says, كُلُّ حُرَّةٍ الْبَالِغَةٍ. Every woman that prays and that is of the age of prayer in Islam, awratan illa wajhaha, falaysa awratan fi salat. That a woman's face, all of a woman is considered awrah. In other words, a woman should be covered in totality when she is praying, except for her face. It is not obligatory for her to cover her face while she is praying. And in another narration on Imam Ahmed, he says, وَعَنْهُ كَفَّيْهَا. وَعَنْهُ كَفَّيْهَا. And likewise her hands. Her hands and her face is not obligatory to be covered when she is praying. When she is praying. طيب. وَتُسْتَحَبُّ صَلَاتُهُ فِي ثَوْبَيْنِ. Now we switch back to the men. So he says, وَتُسْتَحَبُّ صَلَاتُهُ فِي ثَوْبَيْنِ. It is recommended, the optimal way a man should pray is he should have two garments covering him. During that time, they did not wear thobes the way we wear thobes today, one piece. Rather, they had two pieces. He says that it is optimal to wear, or recommended to wear, two pieces. This is the best option. And when he mentioned two pieces here, it says كَالْقَمِيسِ وَالْرِدَاء وَالْإِزَارِ وَالسَّرَوِيلِ مَعَ قَمِيسِ. It says, like for example, كَالْقَمِيسِ. Al-qamis, like a long shirt or a thobe. Al-qamis, perhaps like a long shirt or a thobe. Or وَالْرِدَاء, something that you put over your shoulders. Or izar, izar, Everyone familiar with the izar that you wrap around your waist? Or sarawil, or pants, ma qamis, or pants with a shirt. As some of our brothers from Pakistan, they have the long shirts with the pants underneath. This is considered recommended to wear garments like this. However, he says, وَيَكْفِي سَتْرُ عَوْرَتِهِ فِي النَّفْلِ مَا أَحْدَ عَاتِقَيْهِ فِي الْفَرْضِ. And he says, with regards to what is obligatory, however, what is obligatory? Now, these two thobes, these two garments are considered, the word thobe doesn't necessarily mean like this. It means garments, two pieces. And he said that, يَكْفِي سَطْرُ عَوْرَتِهِ, it is sufficient for a person to cover their awrah, that which is obligatory if a person is praying a nafl. A nafl salat is a voluntary prayer. A voluntary prayer. For example, like the sunnah before fajr, or the sunnah before dhuhr, or the sunnah prayers after dhuhr, or the sunnah prayers after maghrib and after isha. These are called nafl, voluntary prayers. So then, if a person wanted to pray voluntary prayers, what is the least accepted is for their navel and their knees to be covered between a surra ila rukbah. This is obligatory to be covered. Well, is that clear? He says, وَمَا أَحَدَ عَاتِقَيْهِ فِي الْفَرْضِ. If a person is praying an obligatory prayer, then the least amount acceptable for a person to pray an obligatory prayer with regards to garments is that they should have at least one shoulder covered. At least have one shoulder covered. Wadah? وَصَلَاتُهَا. Now they're going to switch back to the women. With regards to the women, what is optimal for a woman to pray in? He says, وَصَلَاتُهَا فِي دِرْعٍ وَخِمَارٍ وَمِلْحَفَةٍ. With regards to a woman, it is recommended for the recommended dress for a woman is that she wears a dir. A dir is like a long garment. A long garment that yadhar ala qadamayha, that covers her feet. A long garment that covers her feet. And on top of that, she should wear a khimar. Al-khimar is what? A khimar is what? That just covers the head, but doesn't just cover the head. It covers the head, the neck, etc. The head, the neck, etc. And then on top of that, they say, وَكَذَلِكَ الْمِلْحَفَةِ. Al-milhafa is like some type of outer garment or a cloak to put on over that. This is the optimal way. However, he says if a woman is not able to do that, then it goes back to, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Also, with regards to that, explaining a khimar is that it goes under a woman's neck. We mentioned that. And it says, وَتُكْرَهُ صَلَاتُهَا فِي النِّقَابِ. And it is hated for a woman to pray when she has her niqab on. A niqab is something that is clear, or burqa, to cover your face, or etc. It is hated for a woman to pray with that on her. It doesn't mean it's hated for her to wear it, rather it's hated to pray with that on. It's hated to pray with a niqab on. طيب. وَيُجْزِئُ الْمَرْأَةُ سَتْرَ عَوْرَتَهَا فِي فَرْضٍ وَالنَّفْلِ. It says with regards to a woman, يُجْزِئُ سَتْرُ عَوْرَتِهَا. It is sufficient for her to cover just her awrah if she doesn't have all of these other things. Well, what is the awrah for a woman? We mentioned it earlier. What is it? All of a woman is awrah except for what? Her face and her hands. So then, the minimum requirement for a woman when she's covering or praying is that all of herself is covered except for her face and her hands. Is that clear? طيب. So then the Shaykh rahimahullah, he says, وَمَنْ انْكَشَفَ بَعْضُ عَوْرَتِهِ وَفَحُشَّ. Now, we understand what the awrah is for a man, and likewise we understand what the awrah is for a woman. So the Shaykh rahimahullah, he says, وَمَنْ انْكَشَفَ بَعْضُ awratihi وَفَحُشَ. So the Shaykh rahimahullah mentions two things. وَمَنْ انْكَشَفَ, whoever shows any part of their awrah. What is the awrah for a man? From the navel to the knees. And what is the awrah for a woman? Everything except for her what? Her face and her what? And her hands. So if any of that becomes exposed, وَفَحُشَ, if any of that becomes exposed during the prayer, وَفَحُشَ, فَحُشَ yani, it means a lot of it becomes exposed. So the ulama, they explain fahusha to mean two things. Az-zaman wal-miqdar. Yani, the length of time that that thing is exposed, that is the awrah, and the amount of it that is exposed. There are two things understood from the word fahusha here. Fahusha means the length of time that it is exposed and the amount of that thing that should be covered is exposed. Is that clear? But so then it says, what does that mean? Give an example of such. Let's say, for example, when we look at the word fahusha, how do we determine the amount of time in which something is exposed and the miqdar, or the amount? So for example, let's say, for example, we have brothers, nas'Allah salam wa afiyah. We have brothers that pray in the masjid with tight pants on, and they go into ruku' and you can see their backside. Wa'yadu billah. You can see the crack of their behinds when they bend over to pray. Now you see, this is something that could invalidate their salat. If what? If it's exposed for a long time, and what? And the amount of the amount of that thing that is exposed. So the question now, a person that's asking a question, they're going to say, well, what is considered a long amount of time, and what is considered, a long amount of time and the amount of which that is exposed? How do we determine that? Does anyone know the answer to that? We've covered that before. How do we determine what's considered a long amount of time, and how do we determine what's considered a lot that is exposed? What tool do we have to answer that question? Does anyone know? We covered this before. Huh? In reference to the amount? Yes. I don't remember that. The course? No, the socks. Okay. So how do we know okay, so what was the rule? What did we use? Think about it. We covered this many times. How do we know what's considered something that is exposed? Here's the scenario again. We have a brother praying. He's making ruku' in the salah. The crack of his backside is exposed. You can see it. Right? Two things that would invalidate his salah. It has to, a certain amount of it has to be exposed, and it has to be exposed for a particular length of time. But if it exposes itself briefly, and he fix it. So some of the earlier men mentioned an example. If a person is praying, for example, and the example would be a person is praying and their clothes fall off and they're naked and they're in the salat. And they pick their clothes back up and cover themselves up. Does this invalidate their salat? Yes or no? Based on the principle we just mentioned, does this invalidate the salat? No. La. It doesn't invalidate the salat. Why not? Because it was a small amount of time, and even though a lot of it was exposed, but it was a small amount of time. Both conditions weren't meant for fahusha. Fahusha, there has to be two conditions met. Number one, the length of time, and number two, the amount exposed. Here we have an amount exposed, but it wasn't for a length of time. Therefore, it is what? Ma'fu an yani. They can pick their clothes up and cover themselves up again and continue to pray.
But what is still the length of time?
So the question now is, how do we determine the length of time and the amount exposed? That's what I'm asking you. I gave you guys the tools for this. Nobody was here that day. That's crazy. Nobody. Oh, I was absent. I missed that day. Okay. Everybody was asking that day. Like, Lebets. Huh?
Guess at it, though.
Go ahead, what's the guess?
I think if length of time may be as long as you're in group cool, some of that nature.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. So then, the gauge in which we are to understand these issues, it goes back to a principle in Islam. We covered these legal maxims months ago. Al-'ada muhakkama. Al-'ada muhakkama. Yani, the customs of the people are considered in legislation with regards to this here. So the ulama mentioned urfan. Yani, what does urfan mean? Urfan means what is customary practice or customarily known to that particular group of people. So let's say, for example, if a brother is praying here and his backside is exposed when he's in ruku', and everyone collectively says, this is a very long time, it was exposed the whole salat, then it will be agreed that this is invalid for that person, that he needs to yu'eed the-salah, he needs to pray again. It's understood among everyone that this was an exceptionally long amount of time, and you had to look at his backside the whole salat. Wa'yadu billah. Therefore, his salat would be considered invalid. However, if he wanted to record, it became exposed briefly, pulled his pants back up, exposed briefly, pulled his pants back up, covered it up, In this case, ma'fu'an is pardoned, as what many of the ulama say with regards to that. Is that clear? Any questions about that?
I'm still not clear on the length of time.
The length of time, it goes back to the customary practice. The people in the masjid will determine what is customarily practiced. So a person might say, well, brother, where do you get this from? Right? Where do you get that from, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَعَاشِرَهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Allah says in the Quran with regards to living with your spouses, وَعَاشِرَهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Live with them in kindness and goodness. The question now is, how do you define kindness and goodness? That varies from person to person, place to place, country to country, culture to culture. So for example, in your culture, being kindness might be to bring her a maid. If you're married to a woman and you don't provide her with a maid, you are not being kind to your wife. In another culture, no, you don't have to bring a maid. So it varies. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَاشِرَهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Ma'ruf, yani, something that is good, it varies from place to place and people to people. I'll give you another example. In the Arab culture, the way you're sitting right there with your feet facing me, that's considered very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. It's like the most disrespectful thing a person can do. However, in our culture, it's not a big deal. No one's going to look at you strange for pointing your feet at them. Right? So culture has a lot to do with certain practices in Islam. And this is very important to know. This is why a lot of times we have people say, forget the culture. La. Whatever's from the culture that doesn't oppose Islam, fala ba's. It's okay. However, if there are things in the culture that goes against Islam, then we leave it. Nah.
What if he's praying by himself?
Even if he's praying by himself, it's not about someone seeing you, it's about it being exposed. Now, if he's praying by himself and he doesn't know, then then we wouldn't have this conversation because he wouldn't know it was exposed anyway. All right? The only way he would know it was exposed, either he knew or someone told him. But if he didn't know, Allahu ta'ala alam. But now,
what if he's doing it, like he says, the type that is praying to put on pants up, to pull it.
Okay. So what if he keeps pulling his pants up?
Yes. And he knows, like, every time you go to course, so yours.
But is he covering his awrah? Is it covered?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes like young boy, like the way to pray, they know.
But here's the thing, it goes back to those two conditions. Is it exposed for a very long time? And is a lot of his awrah being exposed? You understand? See, the thing is, it's easy for someone to look at someone else and give me the ruling on it. Is it halal or haram? You have to think. Certain rulings in Islam goes back to the culture. It goes back to the urf. It goes back to the customary practice of the people. We can't discount that. That's very important. What's a long time to you here in the U.S. might not be a long time for people in China. That's nothing.
But then,
Yeah, it all varies from culture to culture.
I still had to ask this though. But what if he prayed and at the end of his prayer he realized that his backside was out for a long period of time?
he realizes that, that it was, and he understands that it was for a long time, then he should pray again. Read the Salat. Right. Any questions about that? Khalas. About what?
When you mentioned where for the brothers to cover from
The navel to the knee.
Yes. So with the Sunnah Salah, but with
For the Sunnah Salat, the least amount allowable is from the belly button to the knee. That's not the best. And for the obligatory prayer, the least amount allowable is from the navel to the knee and one shoulder being covered. Okay?
Is it a condition if you have clothes that can cover both shoulders, or the Sunnah Salah can cover the shoulder, for you to decide not to do that, in terms of the clothes that we use for haram?
The ihram, yani? We'll talk about that later. We're going to come back because that's also included in here.
Yeah, but my question there is, if you have a cloth that can cover the parade, you have to do that or you have to choose?
Sure. Was the minimal for something that is obligatory is the navel to the knee and one shoulder covered. This is the minimum for a person that is praying an obligatory prayer. However, we mentioned that which is preferable and recommended is that a person covers themselves with two garments. As we mentioned, a qamis tawil, and pantalon, or kada. Yani the long shirt, thobe, pants underneath, so on and so forth. Or, two pieces of garments and so on and so forth. This is what's recommended. This is what is recommended. However, what is the minimal? That which will suffice enough to say that this person has met this condition of the prayer, then that needs to be covered. طيب. So the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he says, أو صلى في ثوب محرم عليه أو نجس أعاد. Now a person, if they pray the Salat, and while they're praying, they pray in garments that are muharram. What is clothing that is considered muharram? Let's say, for example, a person prays in some garments that they stole. Say you stole someone's clothes. Say you stole from a store. You shoplifted. You went into a department store, you saw some clothes, you stole it out the store, and you go to the masjid and you put these clothes on and you pray. Or you pray in your house. You have to repeat that salah. Because you prayed in garments that were stolen. Or say, for example, you prayed in silk. A man prays in all silk. This is impermissible for a man to wear all 100% silk. And they pray in this, you have to pray again. Or if you pray in a thobe that has najis, it's najis on the thobe, some type of urine or something like that on the garment that you're wearing, you have to what? You have to pray again. Is that clear? Right. The next issue. لا من حبس. تفضل.
I stole a pair, let's say I stole a thought and prayed that. I had to repeat the prayer, correct? Do I repeat the prayer with the same thought, or do I change the thought?
You're going to change the thobe. طيب. So the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he said, لا من حبس في محل نجس. Say, for example, a person is locked up. He's in jail. Or he's in a place where he can't move. في محل نجس. And the place he's confined to is filled with najasa. It's filled with impurities. What does this person do? This person in this case does not have to repeat the salah. He does not, or he or she does not have to repeat the salah. Limada. Why is that?
She's confined. You have a chance to escape.
Because you can't escape. La yaqdir. He or she is not able. وَمَنْ وَجَدَ. Now we're going to go through some exceptions. Not exceptions, but some So the ulama al-Islam, when they explain these issues, sometimes they think of extreme circumstances. Sometimes they think of extreme circumstances and they mention them. And when they mention these conditions, it's to help the faqih or the ulama to understand what are the parameters and how to understand different texts and how you can extract rulings from it. So in this case here, he says, وَمَنْ وَجَدَ كِفَايَةَ عَوْرَتِهِ سَتَرَهَا. Whoever can find that which will suffice from their awrah, then they should find that thing and cover themselves with it. So say, for example, you're in a location. Maybe you're incarcerated. Maybe they took all your clothes. Maybe they took all your towels. Maybe you don't have anything. But you find paper or something just to cover your awrah, that, from your knee to your, maybe a blanket or whatever the case may be, then you use that to cover yourself to pray. And if you don't have that, فَإِلَّا وَإِلَّا فَفَرْجَيْنِ. Let's say, for example, you don't have anything. The only thing you have is to cover your private parts in the front and your backside. Then you just cover your front and your back and pray like that. It says, فَإِن لَمْ يَكْفِيهِمَا فَدُبْرُ. And so now, the ulama ijtahadu, they come up now with, if a person is praying. Let's say, for example, in all of these salawats, in general, you can look at them as a person praying in congregation. You can look at them as a person praying in congregation. So if a person is praying in congregation, the Shaykh says, rahimahullah, if a person is praying, say everyone, no one has clothes. They come up with these types of scenarios. No one has clothes. Right? No one has clothes, or someone's praying behind him. Right? And he's leading a salat, and all he has is one small thing to cover something. What do you cover first? If you're leading a salat, they say that the first thing this person should cover is his backside. And leave his front exposed while he's praying. Because there's people praying behind him and they understand. And these are extreme circumstances. But the ulama, they mention some of these extreme circumstances. And this also shows the importance of the salat, ikhwan. Notice how the ulama didn't give one exception to leave it off. Oh, I got to go to work late. Nah. They're giving you, okay, if this, then don't worry, you got this. If this, okay, don't worry, you got this. What? You don't have any wiggle room to get out of the salat. There's no wiggle room. And so it says, وَإِنْ أُعِيرَ سُطْرَةً لَزِمَهُ قَبُولُهَا. It said if someone is praying, right? If a person is praying and someone wants to loan you something, you have nothing to cover yourself with, or someone wants to loan you something to put on to pray with, it's incumbent that you accept that thing and you put it on to pray with. وَيُصَلِّ عَارِ قَائِدًا بِالْإِمَا إِسْتِحْبَابًا فِيهِمَا. And so the ulama, they say, okay, what if a person doesn't have anything? A person doesn't have any clothes at all. What should he do? If all of your garments are taken away from you, you have nothing to cover you, no sheets, no nothing, and it's time for the salah, what do you do? How do you pray? So they say, yusalli ari qa'idan. Then if this is the case, this person should pray sitting down, bil ima'i, and sitting down praying with ishara. Ishara is like, you ever see a person sitting in a chair and they just move forward, so on and so forth. Then a person should pray like that. A person should pray like that, istihbaban, and this is recommended. This is recommended with regards to a person praying like this if they don't have any garments and they are naked. And they are naked with no clothing at all. But now they're talking about, well, what if وَيَكُونُ إِمَامُهُمْ وَسَطَهُمْ. So let's say, for example, all of these men all together, they have no clothes on. How are they supposed to pray? Do they still pray in jama'ah? Yes or no? So they say, وَيَكُونُ إِمَامُهُمْ وَسَطَهُمْ وَيُصَلِّ كُلُّ نَوْعٍ وَحْدَهُ. And they said that if this is the case, a person has no clothes and there's a bunch of men around, then they should pray in one rank together, no imam in the front. The way that women pray. A woman will pray in the middle and it's all sisters on the side. In this case, the men will pray like this and all the brothers on the side. Notice how the jama'ah was not to be left off. The congregational prayer was not to be left off, even in a situation like that. وَيُصَلِّي كُلُّ نَوْعٍ وَحْدَهُ. In every sex, so say for example, there's men and there's women, and they're all in the same situation, then the men pray by themselves, and the women would go and pray by themselves. They will not pray together. فَإِنْ شَقَّ صَلَّ الرِّجَالُ وَاسْتَدْبَرَهُمَ النِّسَاءُ ثُمَّ عَكَسُوا. And if it became difficult and the women couldn't go anywhere else and the women were there, then when the men prayed, the women would turn their backs to them. And when the men would pray, or when the women would pray, the men would turn their backs to them, and vice versa. They would turn their backs to each other, so they would not be looking at each other while they were praying. فَإِنْ وَجَدَ سُطْرَةً قَرِيبَةً فِي أَثْنَاءِ الصَّلَاةِ سَطَرَ وَبَنَى. So let's say, for example, this person is praying. And throughout the salah, they're praying, and they notice while they're praying, they see there's a garment over there that they can put on while they're praying, and it's not far away. There's a garment that that person sees that they can put on, and it's not far away. What do they do? In this case, this person, while they are praying, they can move, grab the garment, put it on, and continue their prayer, and it does not break their salah. It does not what? Break their salah. طيب. وَإِلَّا فَابْتَدَى. وَإِلَّا إِبْتَدَأَ. If it is far away, then they can break their salat, go grab the garment, put their garment on, and pray again. Is that clear? Any questions about that? واضح؟ طيب. فإن وجد طيب. And we're going to mention, we're about to finish up now. We'll mention some of the other stuff here. وَيُقْرَهُ فِي الصَّلَاةِ السَّدْلُ. And it is hated in the salah as-sadlu. Does anyone know what as-sadlu is? As-sadlu. As-sadl. As-sadl that is ma'ruf, that everyone knows, we're not going to talk about that. There's another type of sadl. A sadl here is a type of garment that you put on over your body. You use it as a covering over your top, and you can't close it. So it's hated. Say, for example, you have nothing on, you have like a jacket or a coat on with nothing on, and you want to hold it together and pray. That can be considered a sadl. Another sadl that many people understand too, and we'll probably talk about this later on as we move forward in the salat, but people who have heard the word sadl, what they understand from sadl is a person who prays with their arms to the side. A person who prays with their arms to the side. We have many statements from the ulama of the past, specifically Ibn Abdul Barr, rahimahullah ta'ala, from the ulama of Imam Malik, Imam Malik. And he said, and many ulama mentioned, that if you find a person, they pray with their hands to the sides, la bats, leave them be. If they pray with their hands, qabd, la bats, leave them be. And he said that both of them, this is a statement of Ibn Abdul Barr, both of them are considered from the Sunnah. And you can find many athar and narrations of the Salaf in books like Al-Musannif, the Ibn Abi Shayba, or Al-Musannif, the Razaq Al-San'ani, rahimahumullah ta'ala. You'll find many of these narrations from the companions and after them who talk about the issue of sadl. Rather, this is an issue that many of the ulama of the Salaf, qadiman, differ over. This is not a black and white issue. This is an issue that many of the ulama differ over. And the reason why I said that is because we have people who may look at a brother, pray with their hands to the sides, and say this person is an innovator. And we have ulama, kibar, from the Salaf, like Ibn Abdul Barr, and other than him, who saw that not to be a bid'ah, rather saw it to be from the Sunnah. So then a person has to ask themselves in 2017, when did you reach the level of scholarship? You have to ask yourself, you have to look at yourself. Who are you in this great religion of Al-Islam? What have you put forth? And the answer for most of us will be nothing. So then in these issues, this is very important before you open your mouth and speak about issues, to understand what were the positions of the scholars of the past on this particular issue that you're about to open your mouth about. If you don't have any knowledge about it, it is better that you remain silent, as it is safer for you and safer for your religion. طيب. وَاشْتِمَالُ السَّمَاءِ. Another type of garment that is hated is a type of garment like a person uses when they are praying. For example, they have their ihram on. They have the two pieces of towel. One covers the top, one covers the bottom. And they put, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the people that make Umrah or Hajj. They have a towel on and one arm, one shoulder is out and it's wrapped around. This is hated. It's not recommended to pray like this. Another one, وَلَا وَتَقْدِيَةُ وَجْهِ. If a person prays, man or whatever, and he prays and he has his face wrapped up. وَالْلِثَامُ عَلَى فَمِّهِ وَأَنْفِهِ. And a person has his nose and his mouth covered. While they're praying, this is also something that is hated. وَكَفُّ كُمِّهِ وَلُفُّهُ. And likewise, a person rolling up their sleeves or what have you. So a person might ask, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he says in an authentic hadith, وَلَا أَكُفُّ شَعْرًا وَلَا ثَوْبًا. I don't roll up my hair, nor my thobe. I don't roll up my hair or my thobe. So this is not permissible or is not recommended. It's something that is hated to roll up your pants or your thobe. So what is understood by this? So some of the ulama, when they say roll up here, they say a person does this specifically for the salah. He says, brother, let it all hang. So when they say kummuhu, during that time, they will have thobes with very big sleeves. Very big sleeves. So perhaps when it's time for the salah, a person will roll their sleeves up to pray. They say, la, khalliha, yani, let it drape on the ground, la bats. And if you have hair, don't roll. If you have a man, you have long hair, don't roll your hair up so your hair don't touch the ground. Let it all lay down. That's the understanding, and it's talking about specifically for the salah. It's talking about for the salah. So when you have brothers who roll their pants up, the prohibition or the something that is hated would be if a person did that for the salah. If you only did that for the salah, your pants are rolled up normally. Inshallah ta'ala, let that speak. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala. Tayyib. Now. Can I what? So they say, so many of the scholars mention when this hadith, it talks about don't roll up your sleeves or what have you, it's talking about a person doing that specifically for the salah. Rather, let your pants hit the ground, let your hair hit the ground, so on and so forth.
So is it impermissible or hated?
Hated. Right now we're going to all the things that are hated. All the things that are hated. Do we have time?
It's 8:30. It's 8:30.
When is he there? About 6 minutes? Right. We'll cover a few more things, inshallah. وَشَدُّ وَسَطِهِ كَالزُّنَّارِ. It is also impermissible for a man to wear something tight around their waist like a belt and resemble the Christians who do this. There's a certain group, I think it's like the priests or what have you, they used to wear something tight around their waist, like a tight belt, and you can see it. This is something that is hated to do, to resemble them. And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said in the authentic hadith, "Man tashabbaha biqawmin fahuwa min." And Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, whoever resembles a people, then they are from those people. Whoever resembles them. But the next thing, wa tahramu. Now we go into something that is muharram. We'll go through a couple before the salat, inshallah. طيب. وَتَحْرُمُ الْخُيَلَاءُ فِي الثَّوْبِ وَغَيْرِهِ. طيب. الخُيَلَاء. Does anyone know what that refers to? Huh? If a person is arrogant, وَتَحْرُمُ الْخُيَلَاءُ فِي الثَّوْبِ وَغَيْرِهِ. If a person wears garments and they are with their clothes, they think they're better than other people, and so on and so forth. And so, this also goes mini imama. Likewise, with something you wrap around your head. في الصلاة وخارجها في غير حرب. And this is outside of war. If a person's in war, then they can wear their garments and boast about them in a boastful way. Outside of that, then this is not permissible. لِقَوْلِهِ, and this is due to the statement of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, مَنْ جَرَّ ثَوْبَهُ خُيَلَاءً لَمْ يَنْظُرَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ مُتَّفِقٌ عَلَيْهِ. Whoever drags their garments on the ground, خُيَلَاءً, out of arrogance, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at them. So, this according to the school or the fiqh of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, if a person drags their garments on the ground, khuyala'an, out of arrogance, then this person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at this person, and therefore this is haram. And they also mentioned يَجُوزُ الْإِسْبَالُ مِنْ غَيْرِ خُيَلَةٍ لِلْحَاجَةِ. If a person, there's two issues. It's hated for a person to drag their garments on the ground if they're not being arrogant. If they're doing it not out of arrogance, this is something that is hated. If a person is dragging their garments on the ground out of arrogance, and this is something that is haram. Wali? Is that clear? طيب. وَيَجُوزُ الْإِسْبَالُ مِنْ غَيْرِ خُيَلَاءٍ لِلْحَاجَةِ. And they say it is permissible for a person to drag their garments on the ground if it's out of a need, if they have a need to do so. If they have a need to do so. Wali? طيب. وَالتَّصْوِيرُ وَاسْتِعْمَالُهُ. And likewise, having pictures and using them, especially when a person is praying or what have you, this is also haram. And what they mean by pictures here, Zaad Al-Arwah, yani pictures of souls, living things. If you have them around you, these are also haram. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop and continue with the rest next week, inshallah ta'ala. Any questions? No questions, inshallah? Now, Fadli Sheikh.
You said in reference to the pictures.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I see a lot of people wearing pictures on their garments.
Like, is it pictures of people? Or is it pictures? Is it something that has a soul in it?
Nah.
Like what?
A horse and a
Is it clear? You can see it? You can see? Not, pay attention. We're talking about something that is living. It's a picture of something that is living. Like a photo of a horse painted on a shirt. Or you can see a picture of the horse. The eyes, the nose, all of that. All right.
It's a silhouette.
No, it's different. We're talking about the what arwah, something that can have a soul in it.
What about when the cell phone rings and it has a picture of a person?
And you're praying?
Yeah.
Allah.
So what about the sign, the design of the label of
You can't see it. It's stitches. It's not something that has a soul in it. That's like, so Aisha radiallahu ta'ala, she had a doll baby with a horse and wings on it. So it has to look real. Does it look real? Yes or no? Is it real? No. Something that's stitched is not real. Something that has a picture, like, oh man, that looks like such and such. You have a picture of Michael Jordan on your shirt. Everyone knows what he looks like. That's him. Understand? Yep. Yeah, but that's in general. In general, to use those photos. طيب. Any questions? طيب, we'll start with that inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.